Regular Town Council meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Phillips.
Present.
Councilor Sims.
Present.
Councilor Pratt.
Present.
Councilor Gagnon.
Present.
Councilor Lavoy. Councilor Siegel.
Present.
Now we'll need a motion for the acceptance of the minutes of the May 7th regular Town Council meeting, the May 13th special Town Council meeting, and the May 14th special Town Council meeting.
So moved.
All right. Second by Councilor Wilder Cross. All those in favor? 6 yeas. Now this is time for open public communications. This is a time for people to come up to the podium and speak on items that are not on the agenda tonight. Please keep in mind we have a timer, we have a 3-minute time limit, and please give us your name and where you're from when you come up and speak. And also, just in the interest of time, if someone has said something that you agree with, feel free to come up and just share your comments that you agree with them. So.
Great, thank you. Is there a timer here, there, or?
Yep, it's right here. We'll put it
Or
up.
do I have to make up my own?
Okay. No, there you go.
Okay, great, thank you. I'll be very quick. You know, I actually went to 7th grade in this building. It's kind of scary coming back. But one thing they made me do was memorize the Gettysburg Address. And if you know, it's a wonderful speech. But at the end, he leaves with, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Wonderful words from an amazing man. My dad was town council Calvin Hamblin. My name's Charlie Hamblin. I'm sorry. Live on Hamblin Drive. Went to school here, grew up here. My dad, Calvin Hamblin, was on the town council for 4 decades or so, on and off. I think he was in state government representative for a time. He was very committed to Gorham, and he believed that line, that it's about the people. Government is for the people, by the people. We should always remember that as we make these decisions as a group. Per the last census, Gorham had over 18,000 citizens on roughly 6,200 households, a population of roughly 360 people per square mile. You compare that to Gorham, to Portland, and that has 3,000, almost 3,200 people per square mile. And that's very close to really rural places in New Mexico and Wyoming. And in a matter of perspective, Greater Miami has 22,000, and Greater Boston has 20,000 people per square mile, and Gorham only has 363. So if you believe these numbers, Gorham is either land rich or people poor, depends how you think of it. With these low numbers, how does Gorham have a traffic congestion problem? Because it's a drive-through destination for more people. People want to shop, or they want to go to see a movie, they go to South Portland. If they want to dine out, they go to Portland and Westbrook. Want a high-paying job, you go to Portland. Gorham is a place you go through, you don't stop in. Does the Gorham Comprehensive Plan suggest Gorham will continue to be a drive-through community? People driving through will leave us their pollution, noise, traffic collisions, and they'll spend money somewhere else. Should Gorham have a brighter future? Why not have Gorham become a destination, not a thoroughfare for traffic and resource from the quarries? This will take time and foresight from town leaders. Improving traffic congestion, and I'm talking about the Turnpike expansion, I'm sorry, I should have led off with that, on existing roads will take a well-coordinated plan with support from all affected parties to have impact, which is not happening today. The MTA proposal appears to be supported by a few parties who will greatly benefit from the construction, while everyone in the public I talk to hate the idea. If you want to take a short-sighted view of congestion, we can add capacity, such as MTA wants to do by building a road. But this could be addressed by adding traffic lanes, managed lanes, or improved designs. And there are alternatives. Improved traffic management by working with public safety and the construction projects, traffic signal coordination.
Mr.
More
Hamblin,
efficient use.
could you finish up? You've had 3
More
minutes.
efficient use of existing roads. And remember, the world is changing very quickly. Autonomous vehicle technology, the aging demographic, working from home, climate change. So population growth and Greater Portland will continue. As leaders of today, we should be focused on the quality of life for future generations of Mainers. Smart growth today will be remembered forever. Poorly planned growth will be a burden for future generations. So instead of going along with the old idea of building capacity, we should look for other opportunities, new ideas to build Gorham as a community instead of just build additional roads causing more congestion, more traffic, and more pollution. So neither side, nobody should have a decision on what this is. It should be a decision of the people. The Gorham Town Council should vote to delay the MTA expansion and explore alternatives.
Thank you, Mr. Hamblin. I'd also ask that people refrain from applause and outbursts, whether positive or negative. Thank you.
Okay, good evening. I'm Charlie Pearson, and I own a historic 27-acre farm on Mighty Street. You know, when I moved to Gorham in 1998, after I retired from judging in Washington, D.C., I bought the place and decided, I want to keep it open so other folks can fish it, hunt it, hike it, enjoy it, as much as I wanted to do that. However, that openness came to an end this week because my wife and I posted it, no trespassing. I wanted to share our sign with you. It says, no trespassing. This is private property, no hiking, hunting, fishing, or trapping without permission of the landowner. You can thank the town council and school committee for increasing our taxes over 30%. Now, I intend to encourage other landowners in Gorham to do the same thing. Maybe when all the folks that vote for all these tax increases can't locally fish, hunt, or hike on property, then maybe they'll rethink their voting choices. Don't get me wrong, I value education. I'm a highly educated person, but I'm also a physical conservative. And I think that government needs to look at doing the what has to be done versus what likes to be done, or the wish list to be done. And think about those folks that are on fixed incomes, that are struggling to pay their taxes. When I hear younger folks say, well, if you can't pay your taxes, you just sell your house and move. When I hear that, I want them to think about when they reach that age of fixed income and they hear the people around them say that, I want them to think back, oh, what did I say? Perhaps Wall Street will be good to them, like they've been good to me, and they won't have to worry about it. That's assuming Wall Street even exists at that period. The bottom line for me, though, is I'm tired of paying high taxes for somebody else to enjoy my land and benefit from it. Do you have any questions for me? All righty. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Mike D'Arcangelo, newly moved to Gorham. I went to 8th grade here and worked here, so that's kind of interesting. I would like to speak about the proposed 4-lane connector. If built, it would forever alter the character of Gorham and surrounding communities. It would destroy what we all love about Gorham and Maine in general. Gorham still has beautiful fields, farmland, forested areas. This proposed roadway would destroy a large portion of those lands and make Gorham start to look, sound, and even smell more like Massachusetts or New Jersey. I looked at a tax map, and to me it looks like upwards of 30 to 50 properties in the area of McClellan would perhaps be really severely impacted. Noise, exhaust, and that sort of thing. People in other states come to Maine as tourists and new residents, not for 4-lane paved roads, but for all our beautiful, undeveloped countryside. I know we have a traffic problem, but it is basically a commuter traffic problem. At the March 25th meeting, several innovative ideas were proposed, including adding a 3rd traffic lane on some roadways, as much as possible, to be used as an additional lane for either incoming or returning commuter traffic. Another potentially great idea, having Portland employers stagger their start times. We need to think creatively to consider all possible avenues to lessen our commuter traffic issues before committing to this connector. Once the proposed roadway is built, it'll be here forever. There's a lot of evidence that building a roadway for commuters often results in more roadways in the future as sprawl occurs in outlying areas. This 4-lane highway would encourage people to build homes in Standish, Buxton, and surrounding areas, and before long, people would want yet another road. We need to think long-term and ask ourselves, what do we want Gorham to look like in 10, 20, 50 years? Do we really want a whole bunch more roads, including 4-lane highways? To some degree, growth will happen here. Residential growth in Gorham and neighboring towns, however, needs to be concentrated and centralized to take advantage of potential mass transit and help preserve our large tracts of relatively undeveloped lands. Growth can happen, and we can keep the character of our beloved town if we do things intelligently. Building this proposed 4-lane highway in Gorham that arguably would result in people living in outlying areas asking for even more roads is a disaster for Gorham now and in the future. I lived here, attended Gorham schools, and moved away for many years. Upon returning, one is awestruck by our beautiful countryside. It is this same beauty and openness that draws tourists all year round to a beautiful state, bringing with them, of course, their beloved checkbooks. Maine, being the most northerly New England state, is uniquely positioned to take advantage of tourism, as our southerly neighbors are already losing farmlands and forested areas to development at an increasing rate. We here in Gorham and southern Maine need to avoid that mistake. We need to acknowledge and appreciate that which we have, our beautiful countryside. In closing, I've talked to several of my new neighbors, and I've not spoken to anybody who wants this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Madam Chair, I'll remind the audience that if there's more outbursts, we'll have the area cleared.
Hi, my name is Ann Kennedy. I have lived on Laurel Pines Drive in Gorham since 1992. Before that, my home was in the charming village of Hampton, New Hampshire. I came to the Portland area in search of a town where my daughters could thrive, and I knew at first sight that Gorham was the place to be, because its community and village charm reminded me so much of where I grew up in Hampton. With Gorham's character, I knew I was home. When I go back to visit Hampton, it is sometimes hard to discern its original charm, which has taken a back seat to the driving force of widened roads lined with cookie-cutter stores and gas stations. Character matters. It is what we will remember. I know what I remember about Hampton. It is the same that I will hold dear about Gorham, which will certainly not be a highway and definitely not tolls. For such a large project affecting many people as the Gorham Connector, I have been hoping that the Town Council will let the voices of its citizens be heard within a ballot question or town referendum. This November will provide the opportunity for the most feedback as to what the people of Gorham think about the Connector project and what they want going forward. Hold on to the things that matter. Character matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Greg Labonte. I live at 208 Narragansett, and I am a professor of ecology and biology at the University of New England. Last time I spoke to you about the Gorham Connector and how their numbers really don't add up as far as pollution is concerned. But today, I'd like to speak to you as a father. Perhaps you have all heard the small child out there. That is mine. I apologize for that. That is Shay. Shay was born 10 weeks early. He had chronic lung disease. So he was 2 pounds and 7 ounces when he was born. He's now a very healthy 15-month-old baby. However, the quality of our air in Gorham was very, very important to me, extremely important. And I'm not alone. I'm sure plenty of people have kids with asthma problems. Plenty of people will be in my position moving forward. I will not be the first and last person with a preemie baby. There will be many, many that live in Gorham that experience this. And so for me to lay a highway down on 2-mile-long stretches of forest that clean our air and make it an extremely high-quality air to breathe, there is no value that you can put on that. I can't see how anyone could think that passing that project and threatening the health of our youth moving forward would be a good idea. And so I just will ask you as council who has the ability to say, hey, Gorham is not really for this. If you do pass it, just consider that you are threatening the health of people like my son, and there will be others like him. So I just wanted to let you think about that as a new perspective maybe that I haven't heard many people speak on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Stonis Moody Roberts from 38 County Road in North Scarborough. And thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Here to talk about the Gorham Connector again. I'd like to talk about the economic impact of it, as I've heard some advocate for it for that reason. The MTA hasn't released any data or studies, which has been frustrating. But what I've heard is that the MTA estimates that 20,000 vehicles per day will be driving this new connector and paying its toll. First of all, I don't think that's a realistic number given that the current daily vehicle count at the South Street Gorham bypass roundabout is 13,500. So supposedly all this new traffic is going to change patterns to get to the new turnpike. But that would likely be traffic coming down from Wyndham on 202 and right through an already congested Gorham Village and down South Street instead of going the current route over through Westbrook, which is something that I don't think any of us actually want. But let's say the MTA's 20,000 vehicles per day estimate is correct. How many of those would be Gorham residents? Let's say a quarter as a rough guess. And let's say the toll for this connector is $2. That means Gorham residents, over the course of a year, would be paying $3,650,000 to use this connector. Now, we can bandy about words, but when it comes to public goods, it really doesn't matter if it's a tax, a toll, or a fee. It's still money coming out of the pockets of hardworking residents of this town. Is the chance of additional property tax revenue from a Walmart or Amazon warehouse moving into South Gorham because of the new turnpike even remotely close to $3,650,000 that the community might be losing annually in tolls to use this road that should be a public good? I believe it's been since 2007 that the MTA has been the lead agency on solving congestion in South Gorham, North Scarborough. That means it's been almost 20 years of the MTA trying to do the only thing that they know how to do, which is build a new turnpike, and every other option has been off the table because the MTA has had their grip over this area. But if MDOT were to come in, they'd do it properly. They'd first look at how do we fix the intersections, how do we fix that limited section, 7/8 mile stretch of overlap. And if that still can't be done, then if a Gorham connector had to be built, they'd just extend the Gorham bypass as a normal road and that put a roundabout on County Road in front of my house instead of a massive interchange. And you would actually have a road that people would use because it wouldn't be costing people so much money. And just like the Gorham bypass, federal infrastructure funds. Susan Collins, we all know how much federal infrastructure funds have been available the past several years that we've passed up because the MTA has been the agency in charge of this. So if we reject the turnpike, that doesn't reject solving our congestion. It just gives us a better path forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak on an item not on the agenda?
Ken Curtis, 118 South Street. I was going to talk about the school problem with taxes on that, but I'm going to bypass that. Other than to say that I checked, and as far as I can find, the last 10 years, the high school population has stayed about the same, around 900, a little less. So I don't understand some things about the buildings or the taxes that are going to be needed to pay for this. But the other thing I just came to me before I came over was Wallet Hub. And every year they rank every state in the country based on tax burden on its residents. 2024 report gives proof for Maine taxpayers putting together property taxes, income tax, sales, and excise tax. We are fourth highest in the nation. Only Vermont, New York, and Hawaii are higher. I've lived in Gorham since 1968. That's probably longer than some of you are, except for some councils. So. Sorry. And June 7th will be 53 years I've lived at 118 South Street. I would like to continue to live there. So I ask the councilors to be very judicious when it comes to the tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm at 184 South Street, so not too far away from my fellow speaker. And I wanted to I am afraid that building this connector will turn Gorham into a pit stop for people who want to go up to Sebago or go up to Rangeley. They'll pop off our village, get gas, and keep going. We'll lose a village character that makes Gorham so appealing and such a great place to live and raise a family if we build this connector. And we'll lose a lot of the walkability and the bikeability of of course our biker guy isn't really here today, but we lose the bikeability by focusing so much on automobiles and forcing everybody to get around in a car if you build this connector. And so I urge our town council to stop supporting the Gorham Connector through its ongoing memorandum of understanding with the MTA, to withdraw the memorandum or hold a vote on whether or not to continue the memorandum. I urge the council to stop their support of the connector. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak? All right, seeing no one, we will close public communications and move on to councilor communications. Would you like to go down?
Yeah,
Okay.
just
Yep.
I want to make a public comment about an agenda, or something that's not on the agenda as well. So
Okay.
I'll do that down there.
Yes,
And,
please, thank you.
So we're saying he's an official member of the public right now is what we're
Yes.
saying? Thank you. Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Not speaking
Yeah.
as Councilor Sims.
Maybe I'll do it afterwards.
And I'll email my comments as well. And I'll do very hard to keep to 3 minutes.
Yeah,
The Maine Turnpike Authority does not pay property taxes, and so Gorham will lose the property tax revenues currently collected on the land that MTA acquires. I'm estimating dozens of acres at least, and hundreds of acres nearby will be negatively impacted by the air pollution, noise pollution, water pollution, along with the dangers presented by large industrial trucks and high-speed commuter traffic that comes along with highways. Much of this land is currently undeveloped, but it certainly could be developed in the future. This land could be the site of highly productive development for our town, both residential and commercial. But if MTA builds their toll road, the taxpayers of Gorham stand to lose millions in potential property tax revenues on that same land over time. The assertion that a 4-lane toll highway is required to develop this area defies logic. Businesses don't build along restricted access toll highways. Businesses build along frontage roads where people can access them. Gorham already has frontage roads in this area, and we could build more with sufficient market demand. The lack of public water and sewer infrastructure are the biggest impediments to more productive growth in this area, but the turnpike will do nothing to address those challenges. Instead, this highway would dramatically degrade the open spaces and quality of life that make Gorham a unique and desirable place to live. Why should Gorham cater to through traffic at the expense of our own residents? I have yet to see compelling data to support the claim that the highway will trigger investments that would result in net positive development for our town. Another gas station and a big box store won't generate enough tax revenue to justify the enormous cost in land and opportunity. Those corporations operate on extractive business models where they build as cheaply as possible, both to minimize their building costs as well as their property tax obligations, and they funnel most of their profits outside of the local economy. This type of development will add very little to Gorham's sense of community. Why should Gorham show up late to the highway-oriented development showdown with nearby towns? Drive around the main mall and you'll see quite a few empty storefronts. Is that what we want Gorham to look like? Why are we putting blind faith in highway-oriented development that has failed communities all across our country? I work in economic development, and by far the biggest challenge for businesses across southern Maine is our limited workforce. That means businesses are choosing to locate where they can find people. Gorham must embrace more and different types of housing in strategic locations to attract the workforce necessary to attract more businesses. And those workers won't want to live next to a highway. We must recognize that the global economy has changed dramatically since the COVID pandemic. So many plans that may have seemed like a good idea back in 2019 no longer make economic sense. So many businesses have dramatically revised their growth strategies these past few years in response, and Gorham would be wise to do the same. So for our town staff, councilors, and others with whom I may respectfully disagree with on this matter, I simply ask you for your careful consideration of our community's input on the path forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I make a public input?
If any counselors want to speak on behalf of themselves as citizens, feel free to go to the podium. I guess that's what we're doing now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Phil Gagnon, Gordon Farms Road. As somebody that's taken the time to attend every MTA meeting possible for this highway connector, I can tell you I've been to chambers like this that were completely empty, but except for me. Not one person came to speak about the evils of this connector over the last 10 years that I can remember. And I've been to all of them. I've even been to the ones at the MTA headquarters. And it's very difficult for me to hear people come and say, how is Gorham going to benefit from this? I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not dating myself here, but I remember when traffic was backed up to the Flag Center before the Bernard P. Rhines Highway was put in. We cannot control the development of other towns, and we cannot control, seemingly, the development of our own town when we're looking at a several hundred unit subdivision that's going to clear many, many, many acres, and no one here is complaining about it, right? So I really have trouble coming to these meetings and hearing people say that they're opposed to something that's been planned for 30 years, and no one's been to these, except for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the council want to speak on this? Or oh, we have one more person from the public.
I'm Doug Carter and lived in Gorham for 50 years now, over 50. So I've seen a lot of changes.
Can you just pull the mic down? Thank you.
I've seen a lot of changes over the years, and I've seen the town grow quite a bit. And I don't think anybody's going to like to hear what I have to say because I sat through all the meetings for the bypass that's gone through Gorham. And a lot of those arguments that I heard tonight could be replayed back then. They're all the same arguments. And I own a business in Gorham, and I drive cars hundreds of miles around the town all day long. And I'll tell you, the benefit of the bypass that went through is tremendous. All the complaints that everybody had about the bypass being installed were, in my opinion, foundless. Some people lost some land. It took 40 years for that to be built. And to say that we could use federal money to build different roads and stuff, it would take forever to get that done. And this is paid for by the
Toll bond.
Toll bond. So, no, I don't like to see things change and grow and so forth. And I don't like cars to pollute the air, but if we work on a good infrastructure for electric cars, it would help in that manner too. So just keep an open mind and don't go rejecting something just because you think it's going to make everything awful. It's not. This property is, this road's going to go from the turnpike right on to the bypass, and then everybody's going to end up in Standish, and they'll have the problem with traffic. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no one else getting up, we're going to close the public comment. No other counselors want to speak? Okay. So now we'll do counselor comments as counselors. Counselor Siegel, do you want to go first?
Oh, I get the option? Sure. I want to start by thanking Public Works for the fantastic crosswalk across Ballpark and Access Road. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that work. And thank you to the citizens who donated the money for the paint. Yeah, just looks great. Ordinance Committee last month, we discussed clustered wastewater systems in Gorham, and if we want to allow them, we'll be continuing that conversation. And we also had for as exciting as Ordinance Committee can be, heated discussion on affordable housing. So not very heated, but nice for Ordinance Committee. So if you, we're going to be continuing to discuss those in the future, and if you're interested, please, the public is always welcome. Lastly, I'm sure this is going to be brought up by the town manager, but obviously in 1 week's time, June 11th, vote, 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 please. In most school referendum votes, a 10% voter turnout is normal. That is 10% of the voters in Gorham deciding the entire school budget. I would just encourage everyone to get out there. Heck, I'd love to see 20% turnout. Yeah, please vote next week.
Thank you. Councillor Sims?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to mention that Councillor Wilder Cross and I attended Greater Portland Council of Governments annual meeting last week. I found it to be a very valuable meeting. I was impressed to learn of all the services that GPCOG offers to its member municipalities. I'm not going to list it all off here, but they have support around access to the most current data, both regional and town specific. If we wanted to do financial assessments for existing or a projected development. Critically, they also offer support in identifying funding opportunities at both a state and federal level. And some of these opportunities are more compelling if you partner with another municipality. So I think there's a lot of resources there that we might be underutilizing currently, and I'd love to see us try to use them more moving forward. So I'll try to work on that moving forward. Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Gagnon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the SIPS committee has met, and we had a very wonderful discussion with the chair of the Gorham Economic Development Corporation, Mark Curtis. We appreciate his attendance and his insight. We had some discussion with the school about future planning and putting our master plans together so that we're working cohesively together, so we know where projects are going to be laid, so investment can be done in a more thoughtful and fiscally responsible way. Our next meeting is this month, I believe in 2 weeks, 3 weeks? I can't remember.
On a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. All are welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wilder Cross?
Thank you. I went to the most wonderful year-end middle school choral concert recently, and I was reminded about what talented little kids we have that will eventually get into high school, and I can't wait to see some of those musicals that are going to be coming along. We need to thank all of those dedicated teachers and parents that support these programs, because music is so important. I just had to say that. And just to add to what Councillor Sims said about the GPCOG annual meeting, so many municipalities share the same problems that we have, that when you get in with a group of people like that, you feel supported in a way. And it's such an important organization. I'm so glad we are part of it. We also learned about some initiatives that kind of new ideas that are working in other municipalities, and maybe we can put our heads together and make some of that good stuff happen for us. At the regional coalition meeting of GBCOG, we heard a recap of the 131st legislature, and since I've been talking about general assistance since November, I thought I'd let you know that it's unchanged. If I understand the conversation that went back and forth, the legislature is now looking at better housing opportunities that might give us some relief for general assistance. So I say, let's hold that thought until the 132nd session. We'll see what happens there. And then yesterday I met with the Gorham Village Alliance folks, and I'm going to give you a real quick rundown of some of the things that we talked about. I don't know if you've noticed, but Finney Park has been spruced up. There used to be a food little garden there, and it had been neglected, and it's now been cleaned up, and some nice perennial flowers have been added to it, so it looks really good. GVA is going to sponsor a business after hours event, and it's going to be on June 25th. It is by invitation, but if you didn't get an invitation, it doesn't mean you can't come. All you have to do is ask for an invitation. It means they didn't have your name. So you can go to the GVA Facebook page and request an invitation. And if you don't have Facebook, send a note to me. My email is on our town website, and I'll be glad to forward that information over to them. I'm very excited about that event coming up. Art on South is going to happen this fall. The date hasn't been announced, but we'll know later in the summer. So all of you artists who want to set up tables, start thinking about what you can sell. I think this is good news. Soon we're going to see a bench in front of Gorham Savings Bank. So folks waiting for the bus there don't have to sit on the curb. I've seen that happen. And the pedestrian lighting along South Street is in the works. Our public works person, I don't think is here. But we hope to see that up and running by the end of summer. And then you'll notice there's some beautiful flower pots around town in front of the many of our businesses too. So the GVA is working really, really hard to make our village inviting, and hopeful people will come and shop here. And finally, congratulations to all of our graduating seniors. They finally made it. And it was fun to be at the awards ceremony the other night, to see so many kids have earned wonderful recognition. So we're lucky to have such a wonderful school department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Pratt.
All right, 30 seconds or less. Here we go.
Oh.
Just a reminder, donate blood. The Red Cross is 21,000 units behind currently on what they should be at. So if you can donate blood, please donate blood. There's a blood drive this Thursday at Cressy Church, still availability. So if you're able and willing, please donate blood. Donate blood. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to thank all the people that came out for the Gorham Taste Walk on Sunday. There were over 425 people that came out and walked the streets, and thank you to the VIPs for negotiating all those people walking and helping us with the traffic flow. So thank you to everyone who came out, and now we will turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Probably not 30 seconds, but I'll keep it quick. Just a reminder, the senior property tax rebate applications are now available in the clerk's office and online. This is a rebate program after you pay your taxes for seniors in certain income and property tax brackets. You can get a rebate up to $500, and some of them can be prorated. Any questions, feel free to reach out to the clerk's office. Also, yes, June 11th is the school validation vote, the state primaries, and then we also have a referendum on a fire engine. So this is permission to spend over $500,000 towards a new fire engine. It is not an additional fire engine. It is replacing an engine that had to be scrapped due to its age and a broken frame. Wednesday, June 19th, will be enclosed. Municipal offices will be enclosed in observance of Juneteenth and the holiday. And I also would like to thank Public Works for their work on the crosswalks. It was new to them, something that they'll probably get better at, but they worked very hard for many hours just trying to perfect it, the crosswalks around Roby Park, to get them right in observance of Pride Month. On the South Street lights, we're waiting on Central Maine Power to get us power. Not surprised there. And additional lights will be installed, I believe, later this summer from where they are right now on South Street. These are the black pedestrian lights all the way down to the library. So it'll look pretty nice. A lot of that was funded through a grant from DOT through their village program. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager? All right. And now we'll invite the chair, Sarah Perkins, of the school committee.
Tall people. Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Sarah Perkins, chair of the school committee. You all have a copy of my report, but for those who don't, starting off with actually something I forgot to put on here, just want to remind everybody we have the next meeting of the Fiscal Sustainability Committee coming up on Monday, June 10th at 6 o'clock in the first floor conference room. We've made some great progress and had some great conversations so far, and we're really looking forward to where that committee is headed. So I encourage people to attend, watch the live stream, watch the recording. There's many ways to participate. Next up, as has already been noted, a reminder to the community that the Gorham School Budget Validation Referendum vote will be held on June 11th. Absentee ballots are available through June 6th for early voting or at designated polling locations in person on June 11th. As we saw last year, every vote truly matters. Please be sure to get out and vote. The Gorham schools will be hosting statewide Aspire programs on Monday, June 17th to share best practices. The goal of these programs is to work with community business partners to strengthen programming aimed at real-world learning for students as they explore their futures beyond the classroom. Next up, the Educator Apprentice Program will be partnering to offer a 5th cohort of educator apprentices beginning in August. There are currently 45 apprentices working to fill critical ed tech positions with 8 partner school districts, while earning 61 college credits in just under 18 months. Upon completion, they can then choose to move on to the Phase 2 partnership with USM, where they can complete their bachelor's degree and become certified special education teachers, all while working full-time with benefits and no tuition cost. If you know of anyone interested in this program, please have them reach out to Superintendent Perry to learn more. We are continuing to be in need of bus drivers. We'll be seeking to hire additional CDL drivers this fall. Our Earn to Learn program is still very much alive, so individuals who are interested in getting their CDL license with passenger endorsement can work full-time, be paid for their learning time, and receive a hiring bonus of $2,000. Again, if you know of anyone interested, encourage them to reach out to Superintendent Perry to learn more. This is in addition to our need for substitute teachers and per diem nurses. So really, anyone who wants to help out in the schools, we can find a spot for you. And lastly, I'll just close with end-of-year activities. The final day of school will be a half day on June 10th. Between now and then, our schools will be very busy with step-up days, spring sports playoffs, and graduation events. 2 events of note to the general public are the 8th grade graduation parade on Friday, June 7th. I don't have an exact time for that one, but it will be in the evening. The program itself starts at 5, but then the parade takes place at the end. And the senior graduation convoy through town will be on Sunday, June 9th, starting at 7:30 p.m. That's all I had.
Thank you. Any questions for Sarah? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The obnoxious, not a question, but a comment. Then I just want to say the Narragansett Art Show was fantastic. Yeah, that was very, very well done. And the Aspire Gorham program, specifically, I've been working with the high school senior on a project on small, like very tiny projects we can do to make Gorham a little bit nicer, and it's been amazing. You know, they've been meeting with town staff, and the town staff have been wowed at how intelligent their comments are and just how well thought through they are. So the program's awesome.
Wonderful. Well, Ms. Chasen, the art teacher at Narragansett, and Eliza Koningsberg, the Aspire Gorham coordinator, thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks. And I did forget one thing, just to mention to the public that the Cherry Hill Farmers Market starts this Wednesday. So I just want to let everyone know, Wednesdays all through September from 2 to 6. All right.
Public hearing number 1 on item 2024-6-1. Public hearing to hear comment on a proposal to issue a renewal medical use marijuana caregiver license to Ryan Nadeau, Skyfall Canopy, 5 Little Wing Lane, Unit D, property owned by Dave Cowan, administrator sponsored.
All right, the public hearing on this item is now open. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please go to the podium. Seeing no one, this public hearing is now closed.
Proposed order 2478, order that the town council issue a renewal medical use marijuana caregiver license to Ryan Nadeau, Skyfall Canopy, 5 Little Wing Lane, Unit D, property owned by Dave Cowan.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Pratt. A second? By Councilor Sims. I know we had, I don't know if you just want to clarify, like your email.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In my agenda comments, the PD review has not been completed yet, but if anything is flagged, this will be brought back to the council. We suspect it'll be fine, but Lori, I believe it's going to be this week they'll be done with it. So if anything is flagged, we'll bring it back to the council. If not, the permits will be released.
Okay, so it won't be approved until the PD comments
Correct.
come in. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Gagnon?
Yeah, I just wanted clarity through you to the town manager. I can never tell if this is a new one or if this is a repurposed facility. And I feel like we're getting these on a fairly regular basis.
Thank you. I'll defer to the town clerk, but I don't think you're wrong that a lot of the facilities are, there's a lot of turnover in the units. So we may have one building with multiple units, but Lori should be able to answer the question on if this is a new one or not.
It says renewal, and if it's new, it will say new. And sometimes it's just a new person going into that same building.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilor Wilder Cross?
Thank you. I had a question too. There's a note here that says the map and lot are wrong. Code has it located at 12, lot 12-1.
I think it was.
Did that get fixed?
I don't believe that the map and lot was wrong. I think he had put the wrong map and lot on his application.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Public hearing number 2 on item 2024-6-2. Public hearing to hear comment on a proposal to issue a renewal medical use marijuana caregiver license to Jared Dinsmore, Flamingo Fine Cannabis, 7 Little Wing Lane, Unit C, property owned by Calendar Corporation, administrative sponsor.
Public hearing number 2 is now open. If anyone would like to speak on this item, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed.
Proposed order 2479, order that the town council issue a renewal medical use marijuana caregiver license to Jared Dinsmore, Flamingo Fine Cannabis, 7 Little Wing Lane, Unit C, property owned by Calendar Corporation.
Is there a motion for the item? Motion by Councilor Sims. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Pratt. And this application was not, it was the same thing. Okay, all right. So I just want to make sure. Any questions, comments?
No, just same stipulation as before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Public hearing number 3 on item 2023-2-7. Public hearing to hear comment on a proposal to amend the zoning map to rezone lots on Preble Street from urban residential to office residential, administrative sponsored.
Public hearing number 3 is now open. If anyone wants to speak to this item, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, the public hearing is closed.
Proposed order 2480, order that the town council amend the zoning map to rezone lots on Preble Street from urban residential to office residential as follows.
So moved.
All right, moved by Councilor Sims, second by Councilor Siegel. Town Manager?
Thank you, Madam Chair. High-level overview, this essentially opens up this area of the roadway to different permitted uses that are kind of in character with the area of the village. That being said, existing uses that are already there, residential uses are still permitted, and Tom Poirier, our Director of Community Development, is here, can answer any specific zoning questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
2024-6-3, action to consider an appointment for the Gorham Economic Development Corporation, appointments committee sponsored. Proposed order 2481, Order that the Town Council appoint Andy Morrow to the Gorham Economic Development Corporation with his term to expire April 1st of 2026.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
All right, moved by Counselor Pratt, second by Counselor Siegel. Thank you to Andy, he's in the audience tonight, for, offering to do this, so we appreciate that.
Yep,
Any
absolutely.
other comments?
Nope, just thank you for volunteering. We really appreciate it.
All right. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-4, action to amend the Land Use and Development Code with regards to quarries. Councilor Siegel sponsored. Proposed Order 2482, order that the council forward to the Ordinance Committee for review and recommendation, amending the Land Use and Development Code for more regulations with regards to quarries.
Is there a motion for the item? Motion by Counselor Siegel. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Sims. All right.
Thank you. So this started back when I was on the planning board, and there was an issue that came to us with a quarry that was found out of regulation, and it was missed for quite some time by town staff, and making this started with realizing that we need to fix something on the town side to make sure something like that doesn't happen again. And then I've also been approached by residents about reviewing our quarry regulations. I do want to apologize for the word more regulations. I think that was a honestly mistake on my part, and this is much more of just a review similar to what we're doing with, I think, clustered wastewater systems. Just looking at them again, it's been a while. Let's see if there needs to be changes, as well as making sure we review on the town side.
Okay, so would you like to amend the item to, instead of say more regulations, would you like to amend the language before we vote on it?
I would just say on any changes made.
Because I know for me, there's a big difference between updating, reviewing, looking at, versus more regulations. So I don't know if that makes a difference to anybody else here. So I don't know if you want to make an amendment, but we can hear from the rest of the council first if you want.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious if that is a holdup for people.
Okay. Councilor Gagnon?
Yeah, Madam Chair, this isn't the first time a kind of a jumbled order has come here that's not clear in what the intent is. I can't support something that isn't defined by what we're looking to do. Staff time is already stretched with multiple items that we've had going through us, so unless there's something, that we're looking for here, if you're talking about an enforcement issue, that's a town matter, and that's what the town manager needs to address and look into. I would charge him into looking into it. But if this is something that is, I guess, specific, I'd want to hear from you what specifically within the code we're looking to do. That's it for me.
Okay. Councilor Wilder Cross?
Yes, I agree with you. I would like to see something specific. But.
Okay. Councilor Sims?
Well, actually, that's a fair point. If this is just sort of a procedural thing, folks are interested in hearing some sort of more specific item. If we were to vote down this item right now, it wouldn't necessarily make it so someone couldn't propose a more specific item in the future. That wasn't this. So what's the ruling there?
I'm looking at the town manager because this is always a slippery slope of, I mean, whether you table something, whether you bring it back, whether the item fails, that type of thing, so.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think generally speaking, if you had an order that said, look at regulations on a specific chapter, and that does not go through, that's an item that the council took up and did not move forward with, and your normal council rules would apply in general. Now, we could always look at a specific case or a specific issue and have legal review it, but I would suggest if you do want to look at a specific issue or update something, identify that before you take action on it, whether it's a review later, review now, or clarifying the order, because you could have the potential that you may not be able to take it up for the term of this council.
So if there is something more specific, the wiser path forward would be to table it for the time being. Is that accurate?
Thank you. I think that is an option available to the council.
Madam Chair, if it may help Councillor Sims out here. I believe this has been reviewed several times in the last decade. It just no actions were taken. In looking back at minutes and agendas, my help for you here would be, I think first we would charge the town manager with looking over enforcement and what is there for issues, and have him come back and get information that would lead us to make a more decisive decision. So if the town manager gets that, we can table this for now and come back to it, maybe reword it or something along those lines.
Go ahead.
If I may, I do know there are some members of the public here that are interested in speaking on this item specifically. Is it okay for them to come up and
If
speak?
you would like to open it for public comment, yep. So I'm going to say the same thing that I said before, obviously 3 minutes. I think if there's somebody who can encompass all of your comments at once, that would be great. You can show a support in raising hands if you agree with the person's comments or something like that in the interest of time. But if anyone from the public wants to speak on this, please come up.
And one time to speak, right? It's not a debate.
Yeah, we're not going to, you get one chance to
Thank
speak.
you.
Yep. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Charlie Hamlin. I live on Hamlin Drive, about 7 or 8/10 of a mile from the quarry. Thank you very much for opening this up so we can talk to us. And I'll keep it really short. This kind of came to my attention when they expanded the quarry out, and I started talking to the neighbors. And I was rather shocked how many neighbors have issues related to these quarries. The blasting, the crushing, the dust being released into the air, the noise pollution, the hours of operation, which seem, when I read it and listen to it, kind of out of context what the original approval was from the board, or the planning board. And many people have talked to me and said, well, we should revisit that, and I tend to agree with that. We've started digging in, we've talked to the town people, we've talked to the DE people. It appears, and I'm not sure, but there's roughly 13 quarries in town and one asphalt plant. We've tried to figure out when the quarry regulations were put in place, and we think maybe the 60s, although nobody knows for sure. And there is no regulations at all in the town about the asphalt plant. So if we're moving forward with quarry regulations, we should look at them and see if they're meaningful. They're over 50 years old. I mean, I think it would be time to take a look, see if they're still relevant in today's world. And I can tell you, when we talk to the DEP and starting to reach out to the EPA, there's a lot of things that have changed over that 50 years that probably should be updated in the GORM regulations. So just a few recommendations. People have told me they've complained a lot to the town and the Shaw Brothers, but we can't seem to find evidence of it or consistency. And we've talked to people, well, I don't remember. So I think it would be great if the town of Gorham could have a clearinghouse for complaints related to quarries. One person to contact so that we have a log and we know exactly what's going on. So it's better for both parties if we know what's happening. I think hiring an independent outside quarry consultant would be great, because I'm not finding anybody in the town who has a great understanding of what's going on in quarries. So bringing somebody in independent, look at what we have today, and potentially look at something different in the future. Last week, the town of Winthrop approved brand new quarry regulations. The town board approved it. We should look at that and see if we can learn anything from that. And I think we should consider tax rebates to neighbors. who live around the quarries, because at least the quarry I'm used to, the quality of life is not good, and we should look at maybe they're paying too much. And lastly, I think we need to look at limiting residential growth in the areas of the quarries, because I see a lot of houses coming in around the quarry off Mosher Road, and man, they're just getting pounded with noise, dust, and everything else. So I think we need to get our arms wrapped around it before we go too much farther in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to come up and share what you're saying, you could do it for him.
Could anyone who is here who agrees with the statements just made or is here to support the effort to have the quarry regulations reviewed and potentially updated raise their hand? Thank you, everyone.
Good evening. My name's Danny Shaw, and I guess there's nobody more surprised than I. My phone number is 831-1007. Anybody can call me anytime. I always answer my phone. We own 13 pits and quarries. We're in Freeport and Dayton and Buxton and Standish and Windham and Westbrook. Work with all our neighbors, but you got to call me. You don't call DEP, you don't go tattle to somebody else. Call me if you got a problem. We paved 42 acres. We didn't have to. We did it because we wanted a state-of-the-art facility. I've gone to get 2 councilors this week to show them, the 2 I thought would be the ones voting against us, to show them where's the noise, where's the dust. They say you can't sit outside in a 2-mile radius. We've gone to all the neighborhoods. We've shut off the truck. We've listened. The closest we can get in the neighborhoods. We've listened. We cannot hear the crushes. These are state-of-the-art. We spent $2 million bringing in power. We have a dust suppression system. It's the only one in New England. It's a very high pressure. It's a cloud. When our trucks dump, we have big sprayers that shoot at it. So Councilor Segal says today, well, then you won't have to worry because it's the rest of the quarries in town. There's only one other quarry that I know of. If there's 13, I don't know where they are, Charlie. So come see me. I can educate you. I can show you what we're doing. There's only one other quarry. We're open 24 hours a day. We're industrial zoned. If the town council is going to come and take away our permits and shut us down after the investment that we made, we're going to fight back. And if you punch us, we're going to punch back. And I don't think that's what the council wants to do. We try to be good to this town. We try to be good to our neighbors. And if you've got problems, call me and come out and look at our quarry. Look at what we do. We take a lot of pride in it. We've got 245 families that feed the people that feed their families out of this quarry. They don't have a trust fund. You know, they have to go out and make it. And we got to start looking at the businesses in this town as well. I mean, these school budgets, they're not going to get supported by just houses. And you can't say, you can't live around this quarry. Where's the dust? It hasn't rained for 8 days. All the transformer pads, there's no dust on them. There's no dust on the cars. I mean, let's be honest. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And just as a reminder, this is a discussion about quarries, and we do have 2 quarries in Gorham. There are several gravel pits. We're not discussing gravel pits, so if we could just keep it on the topic and not certain quarries and certain places. So go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Ken Sanderson, and I live on Mosher Road, about a quarter of a mile from the Shaw Brothers pit. And we don't want Shaw Brothers to go out of business. They're a good business. They've done a lot for the town, and they started from nothing and came up and become a very successful business. But we would like a little more stewardship from them. They supposedly have this system that keeps the dust down. I live there. I live with it. The dust comes in. We get it on a windy day. there are clouds of dust blowing across Mosier Road. It's there. All you gotta do is open your eyes. We have to clean our pool frequently because we get the dust. Only when the wind's coming our way, but, other than that, I just don't know what to say. I don't wanna, cause problems with Shaw Brothers because they're a very good company. But, we do have to live with it. My grandkids have to breathe it when it's coming through their yard, and everybody else does too. So, that's what I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, go right up, and if you want to get in line, if there's other people that want to talk.
Hi, my name's Mark Morrill. I live at 45 Lily Lane at the very end of the road. Shaw Brothers Quarry is directly through the woods. And I think one thing that we didn't mention, or Mr. Shaw didn't mention, is the blasting. And so right now, the blasting, when those blasts happen, they shake our houses. And I'm sure, everybody's nodding that lives in the area. Those blasts affect our houses. So, it's difficult for me to say that the cracks, so I have cracks in my foundation. There's a crack in the wall in our living room that just showed up. And I can't say that it's settling of the house. It's a 22-year-old house. But what I can say is it definitely doesn't help the situation. And so I think, if we're going to kind of review the regulations, I'm not sure if anything's been tested, when those blasts go off, some are greater than others. And like I said, the house shakes. So I support, any reviewing of regulations or amending anything that we need to do to just limit some of those blasts. I mean, that's where I am. I'm sort of northwest, so we don't get the wind, we don't get the dust, but those blasts, there's no escaping that. There's no cleaning that up. And I think it has affected my house, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name's Gary Noyce, and I live on Dolph Road, which is about a half mile from the quarry. To say that the dust is not an issue would be a huge understatement. It does depend on the wind and the time of year, but we have significant dust on our vehicles, actually in our home when the wind blows, if we have our windows open. And my wife has a lung issue, and that's a concern with the kind of dust that occurs. So it's a concern of mine, what's going to happen over the years. And these were concerns that were brought up when the initial town discussion was happening about, giving a permit for the actual quarry. And there are other things too. Of course, there's the noise, and there is noise even at the crack of dawn over there. We can hear it from our house. Of course, it ramps up in the summertime because that's during paving season and that kind of thing. So it's kind of seasonal, but it's still pretty loud, and it means we have to keep our windows shut pretty much most of the time. And then the other factor is the asphalt production. We might have our windows open in the evening, go to bed, and in the middle of the night, and this happens very regularly, very regularly. I started to actually kind of mark it down in my mind a couple of weeks ago, and it's been through at least 4 to 5 nights in the past couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And it's so strong that you have to shut your windows. I mean, it wakes you up. So it's not an insignificant thing. It does impact us, and it impacts our quality of life living where we do. So I'd like to have that considered in terms of what we do forward. And it doesn't mean shutting the quarry down, but there are some things that I don't think are being thought about that much by the town itself. If you live near it, you would. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Since I don't see anyone else getting up, we are going to.
One
oh,
more.
One more.
Good evening, Mark Curtis, 258 Narragansett Street. Intimately familiar with this industry, been around it for 30 years just recently. Hear the concerns, have definitely handed out my phone number at meetings like this as well. We don't own a quarry in Gorham. I happen to work at Gorham Sand and Gravel, but you know, a lot of these things, if we bring the discussion back to the original point here, was there was a request to review the ordinance. Again, I don't want to go back and forth, but this ordinance, I believe, was put in place in 2008. It's been reviewed many, many times. Prior to that, it has definitely been reviewed since then, 2021, I believe. I sat in on those. It's something that we pay attention to. There are federal and state regulations. The state law that governs quarries, I think was done in '93, has been updated a number of times, has been updated to look at, to make sure that quarries or processing that might involve other minerals, because there are other things besides the ledge that might be processed. People are talking about the battery materials, the giant lithium deposits in Maine. So, you know, these ordinances, in order to be fair to each and every taxpayer out there, business appreciates consistency. Now, that's not saying that there can't be new science and things should be considered, because it should be. But when any business makes any type of investment, especially in a town that has an ordinance, their hope and expectation should be consistency. I would encourage you to not take up this particular request at this time. And the reason I would say that is because I think it's not well worded, and it scares me when we start opening things up for just this, you know, where are we going to meander to figure out what happens next? So I would encourage you to do exactly what some of the councilors mentioned, which was to charge the town manager to speak with staff, to gather some information, report back, find out if there are in fact some situations or issues that should be directed, and then they can be focused on. Other than that, I think it's a wild goose chase. It would be a waste of the public's time, because there would be so much education that would need to take place. It would be a waste of the industry's time, and it would be a waste of staff time. And as Councillor Gagnon mentioned, we've already spread them pretty thin. So with that, thank you.
Thank you. All right, seeing no one else,
Madam Chair, if we continue.
we are actually, what?
If we're going to continue on the discussion.
Oh, yeah, we're going to continue the discussion. We're going to be done with this, so.
Okay. I was just going to correct one thing I heard. So if we create new ordinances, businesses are grandfathered under the prior ordinances, correct? It's not like we can force them to undertake things. It's like an elevator. You can't have a building that doesn't have an elevator, but it's occupied, as long as they're not making material changes to it. We can't force them to have an elevator. So.
Thank you. I would say, generally speaking, yes, but there are instances with different types of zoning and regulations where it may apply. So you obviously have original approvals, updated approvals, and then general town codes and ordinances on top of it. So generally speaking, yes, but there's always something that falls through that.
Any other comments? Questions? Councillor Pratt?
I just encourage town staff to reach out to the quarries and look at our current ordinances and meet with the quarries and talk to them, and see what the concerns are, and check with the standards that are in place by the federally governing and the state governing bodies already. I don't see the point of being more restrictive than the state and the federal government at this point. Much like I said at the last meeting when I sponsored the sprinkler ordinance, I don't want to be more restrictive than the state. So for that, I am voting no on this tonight, and just wanted to be clear on that.
So I guess I just like more clarification, because I see two parts to this. And I think we've said this before. I don't think this is recreating an ordinance. I think it was I would like to see if there, as has been said, that staff recommends any updates or any changes. Obviously, definitely meet with, I think we only have 2 quarries, is that correct? And 13 gravel pits, or, so just clarifying what we're talking about here, if it's just quarries or, including, gravel pits, because we have 2 separate things going on. And I guess, I heard the word consistency, and I want to be consistent in what we've done in the past, what we want to do. But I think what I'm hearing also is enforcement is an issue, so maybe that's part of the discussion. And I just think this is a way bigger discussion than maybe just tonight. So I'm not sure how the council feels about that. I think it's just to dive deeper into more discussion. So anyone else, comments, questions?
I tend to think the suggestion that was made around sort of, if we're tabling it and we're asking the town staff to take a closer look to try to come back with something more specific for us to consider in the future, that seems like is that where we're landing? That seems like.
It's been suggested, nobody's said.
Yeah, just vote on the item and.
Okay,
On the item.
so
I will just add that this is a bit of an aside, but there's some tragic irony here, because we have industrial zones within a mile of houses, yet we aren't willing to allow neighborhood businesses in our residential zones. The Gorham House of Pizza building is illegal to build in almost all of our residential zones because it mixes commercial activity with a few apartments and no setbacks from the road. So, and those are the type of buildings that generate more property tax revenue per acre that can actually help us with our tax challenges. So, that's obviously not a solution to what we're talking about right now, but it's worthy of pointing out.
Okay. Okay, yep. So Danny Shaw was just clarifying from the audience that there are 2 active quarries at Gorham. But there is another third one that's inactive. All right, so we're not making any amendments or changes to the ordinance? Councilor Siegel?
I'm thinking through what to do in this very moment. I think at this time, what people have suggested of asking town staff to go, to actually look at this, and then come back with recommendations for specific changes, I think makes sense, rather than just voting on this motion by itself. So I'm going to make a motion to amend this motion to instruct town staff to review the Land Use and Development Code in regards to quarry zoning and enforcement, and provide recommendations back to the town council on reviewing and amending regulations.
I'm looking at the town manager, if that's what he wants us to say.
Yeah, could we repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to amend it to instruct town staff?
Well, point of order, Madam Chair, that makes it a new item. So why don't we just, go through the motions?
Well, I think the one
We
thing
have public hearing requirements, so.
Yeah. It seems like maybe the thing to do would be to vote I'm happy to make a motion to table it, because instead of voting on it one way or the other right now, potentially kind of removes it from consideration in the future, right? That's the one other concern here. So I'll make a motion to table it for the time being. I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Okay, is there a second to tabling the item? Councilor Siegel? All right, so just tabling it to a future date. Okay. All those in favor of tabling it? 3 yeas. All those opposed? The motion fails because it's a tie. So motion fails to table the item. So we'll go back to the original item.
I believe I introduced an amendment to change.
Yep, and you did. And do you have a second for that amendment to change the language?
I'll move the question.
Can you repeat what you said?
Yes. So I'd like to amend this motion to say that this item instructs town staff to review the Land Use and Development Code in regards to enforcement and quarry zoning, and provide recommendations back to the Town Council on reviewing and amending regulations.
Is there a second on the amendment? There's no second, so the amendment fails. So we're going to the vote on the original item that reads, for review and recommendation sent to the Ordinance Committee, amending the Land Use and Development Code for more regulations with regards to quarries. All those in favor? 1. All those opposed? 5. All right, on to the next item.
Item 2024-6-5, action to consider authorizing improvements to the Preble Street Common, Councilor Wildacross sponsored. Proposed Order 2483, order that the Town Council authorize staff to make improvements as presented to include a new sign and matching decorative fencing.
Motion.
Yep. Is there a motion on the item?
Thank you, Miss. Yes.
Yep. It's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Yep. Councilor Siegel. All right. So, just out of curiosity, do you want to talk about this, or I didn't know if this was your design and your, or?
It is not my design.
Doesn't look like your handiwork. No.
However, it is a great design, and folks who have it.
Do you want to show it to the public?
Yeah, see if we can, Ray, you can kind of hold it up maybe?
Here, I got you. I
There we go.
Want to zoom
There
in
we
on
go.
Lee?
Yeah.
Buddy, I'm just standing here like a goon with
Yeah,
a
you
sign.
can just do that. You can just do that while Ginny talks. That's fine.
Here, we'll do this.
It's time now to identify this wonderful green space that we've been using now for
there it is.
years. Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
We named this Preble Street Common about a year ago, but there's never been a sign there indicating that's what it is. And so any event that is there, like the art show, if you were giving directions and you said Preble Street Common, people might wonder where the heck that is. So we wanted to identify it. And the rec department has done some research, and the SIPS committee listened, and we're excited about it. This street would be, the sign would be a granite sign, similar to the other granite signs that we have around town that identify schools and other areas. There's also what they call hitching posts that will go along Preble Street, and I believe they're going to have little loops on them, so you can bring your horse to town, I guess.
Or bike?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there'll be a place for bikes. They're going to move the benches around so that they make sense. They'll be in a spot that will make sense. It's definitely going to make Preble Street Common look like a common. So I hope that you all will agree with me. The manager might like to explain the costs and how that's covered. That would put everybody's mind at ease.
Thank you. So as Councilor Wildacross mentioned, this was a kind of a concept talked about at the Capital Improvements Committee meetings, or several meetings. It wasn't necessarily referred to the committee. I see it as we've allocated funding for improvements to that space through TIF funding. It's been allocated in this past budget as well as this upcoming budget. The purpose tonight is not necessarily for the council to approve a dollar amount, because we have the funding set aside, and that could vary, and you had estimates in your packets. It's more to endorse a concept, because it's a public space. Staff, per se, don't want to be the people making these decisions and install hitching posts throughout this area, and then the council not like it or the public not like it. So change is hard regardless. I mean, we saw that with a lot of the South Street improvements, which I think are working, but change creates controversy sometimes. I think overall, the thought process is just to create a warm, inviting space that people can use that kind of says, I'm allowed to be here and I want to be here. So it could be tweaked a little bit, a plan. The town engineer did some very simple concepts of what it could look like, and it could be modified moving forward. So we just kind of wanted the town council's endorsement of making generalized improvements using a granite theme moving forward. And if the council wants us to look at something else, we're happy to do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have to say that I agree that we need to label it because we've had a name for so long that it needs to be labeled. But I was under, I guess there's a couple pieces that I was hoping that there's members of the GVA here, I'm not gonna put them on the spot, but that they're doing work in this area, and I think that there's some gardening going on, so maybe, not to get specific, I definitely want a sign there, but maybe just touch base with them first before placement and all that type of thing, because if they're redoing this garden and we put a sign right in front of it, then they've wasted their time putting shrubs and things like that in. So I'm not sure where they're at with that, but just check in with them. I think it could be a good group project, and then the Public Works Director isn't here, so I can't ask him if he minds mowing around hitching posts, but, so I'll just leave that thought there. But
We did talk about that at
Okay.
our meeting, and he said that the weed whacking around the hitching posts would not be a problem.
Okay.
We explored other options as well.
Yes, we did.
Okay. I just want to thank Ginny for bringing this concept up and this idea. I thought it was great, and she's been a great advocate for this area, and I want to say thank you. I think this will be a wonderful addition, and you beat me to a whole bunch of different other items, but one of them is, I believe the rec director said that there's a landscaper that wanted to take care of that area, so it will coincide with this sign as well. So it's going to be very complimentary of the area. Again, thank you, Ginny. Wonderful.
Councilor Pratt, go ahead.
So I'm not the bike guy by any means here, okay? But I'm going to throw out a bike thing tonight. So I know they're called hitching posts, right? And I know that's designed for horses, but if we could put a couple of like rings on them so people could chain bikes up and whatever else as part of it, I'm all in. Seriously, you got me. So if
That
we can
is
do
part
that,
of it.
let's
That is
incorporate
fine.
it.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Drawing is rudimentary.
Yes, it's very
Councilor
rudimentary.
Sims made sure of that.
Okay,
that
so
fact.
you're welcome, bike people.
I've been working
Yeah.
on a
I haven't rode a bike
horse
since I was
reins
16.
design for
so.
my bicycle.
Other comments?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can any of the other counselors who are at this meeting speak to some of the other options that were presented?
Ginny, you want me to, real quick?
Sure, I mean, we looked at other options, and this one was the one that the committee agreed to, that we felt would be the best looking and and cost effective. So,
yep.
Yes is the answer, we did.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing I'd kind of to this point and to the question, whatever theme the council goes with could be the theme of the village for the next 30, 40, 50 years. So that's another reason that we wanted to bring it to the council rather than look at, okay, we're going to do pressure treated posts and kind of a rail, split rail fence here or something like that. So obviously we don't want to do one thing on the village green, something on Preble Street Common, something else down the street. So I think once we commit to a design and a concept as a town, we're going to move forward with that. And another reason we really want you to weigh in and think on this. So granite lasts a long time, and another reason that hopefully it'll be there a long time.
And we do have the other granite signs at Roby Park and at the other places, so it made sense to stay with that design.
Chair? Sorry, I think my question was misunderstood. Could you describe a couple of the other options that you didn't choose when you did go with this one?
The granite sign was always in the discussion. The larger discussion went around the posts.
Yeah, there were fences, there was like a railing.
One was with a chain.
Yeah,
There was
we
another
didn't go
with
with the chain.
ropes, and we felt that people would sit on the ropes and swing on the ropes or sit on the chain, so it didn't make any sense to go that way. You would do that, right?
I would do
Lee?
that, yeah.
So,
Good.
yes is the answer, except for the granite sign that we all agreed on. And this made the most sense because it does invite bicycles.
Okay. Just because I see a couple people from the GVA, if you want to get up and talk, you can. If you don't, I don't mind opening it up to the public. If you'd like to speak on it, it's fine, you don't have to. Just want to give you the opportunity.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kathy Garrard, Gorham Village Alliance. Thanks, Ginny, always a steward of that piece of land. And it has been used more by many groups over the last few years, which has been great to see. GVA has not had a chance to look at the concept. We'd love to have that opportunity and maybe give some feedback if you're open to that.
Okay.
I'll need to take it back to the group.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So depending on what the council does with this item tonight, if you move forward with it, we would definitely involve our community organizations, GVA, GDC, anybody else who wants to be involved to fine tune whatever this looks like. Again, this is a very, very rough concept. It's not necessarily, Public Works hasn't gone out and counted everything, measured it, and laid everything out with stakes and all that good stuff. So I think we could, we definitely want to involve them moving forward.
Okay. Yeah, I guess as long as people are weighing in on the concept, I'm fine with it. So as long as we.
Same.
Yep. So any more discussion? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-6, action to consider amending the Land Use and Development Code to preserve the character of Gorham, Councilor Siegel sponsored. Proposed Order 2484, order that the Town Council forward to the Ordinance Committee for review and recommendation, amending the Land Use and Development Code for the purpose of creating performance standards that will promote the creation of neighborhoods that fit the existing character of Gorham.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Siegel. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Sims. All right. Councilor Siegel.
Thank you, Chair. This was brought to my attention that we talk a lot about village character and how we want to promote that, and we don't have performance standards that really specifically lay it out. They're very broad, and then we end up with people who are upset at, every development that comes in. Like there is a reality where housing gets built next to somebody and they feel good about it going in. It feels like it should be a part of the neighborhood, and we can create our performance standards to actually do that. So that's what this would do. It would actually make our performance standards align with what we want to see in terms of our village character, instead of being very broad, very vague, which is where we're getting some of these newer developments that have come in, and then people say, well, this doesn't look good, this doesn't look connected to Gorham at all. So that's my goal with this.
Okay. Discussion? Councilor Gagnon?
Through you to Councilor Siegel, was this a part of our discussion in ordinance with the town planner, where she was bringing up that the planning board has some difficulty with matching neighborhoods with existing neighborhoods?
So, sorry, I've heard that in the past. This one actually came from a private resident who brought this to me. Yes.
So this would be setting performance standards for new things coming in, because the way I read this when I first read it was that we were basically setting an HOA for the center of town. Sorry, there was just no description. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when I read it, I'm like, okay, so Seven wants to set an HOA for the center of town. It makes more sense now. So you're saying during the planning process, this would set performance standards that the development or whatever would be running through planning would have to adhere to and would be enforceable at the end of the project?
It would give the planning board more guidance on what we mean by village character, and it would give people a better understanding of what is actually going to be put near them.
Okay. Yeah, so I appreciate it, okay? When I was on the planning board the first time, I think we actually removed some standards like this because it literally set like roof peaks and roof angles and stuff like that, if I remember right. So I don't want to get into that big a minutia, I guess, if we're doing this, is I don't want to get into, okay, you have to have a 22 pitch on your front porch, but your back porch is supposed to be at 32.5, type thing. So if we're generalizing standards, I'm probably good with this, but if we're going to dig into it so badly that all the buildings look cookie cutter through town, I don't want to go down that angle either, so.
I hate to inform you that, all of these new developments, they all look cookie cutter already.
You're talking to the guy that hates development, so
sorry, if I may. My goal is, yes, not to get that specific, but to also I think this would help developers too, so that what they're producing, they can do it quicker and feel, just know it will go through as well. Yeah.
Councillor Sims?
That should be a specific goal of streamlining the approval. Like we have input up front, so we know what we're willing to accept, and then we're able to let developers build that. Like that should be a goal of this. To some extent. There'll be, I think we'll have to do, the next iteration of the comprehensive plan and things will be more efforts along those lines, but this is a step in that direction, it seems like, worth pursuing.
Right, it should be in the standard work instructions, basically, of, hey, I'm putting a subdivision in, what do I need?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so when I read this the first time, I was looking at the neighborhoods, thinking it was all over town for all the zones, all the neighborhoods, and then you're talking about village character. So is this just in the village, or is it? I guess that was my other piece was, because I know in the village we require things, to look a certain way, and we've done this, and I know we've done it for other parts of town. I think there's some businesses that have like cupolas and look like barns because we want them to look like that. So I guess we're just talking about houses and neighborhoods. Is that correct? Is that your?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And is it all over town or wherever neighborhoods can go in, or just the village?
My intent was focusing on the village. Truthfully, to the council, I'd love for us to consider this, throughout the town in terms of what do we want our rural Gorham to look like? If it's just lined with McMansions, is that what we want rural Gorham to look like? But if it'll make it easier and more palatable for my other fellow councilors, we can just focus on the village.
Okay, so for me, this is something that we do I know there's not performance standards in the comprehensive plan, but I think where we're doing that update, I think from that guiding document, I think we might be able to put in better performance standards, and maybe staff, it'll be easier for them to pick through that, but I don't know. So town manager looks like he has something to say.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A suggestion. Looking at the whole town on any level for any issue is a massive undertaking. I would suggest the council, to start, focus on a area, whether it's a village or a rural area development, whatever you want. And the goal for staff, I've never met a developer or somebody that's in the business that agrees that more standards are great. And that's the trouble with government. But going into it, if we can identify ways to allow development with less restrictions if you preserve the rural character of Gorham. There has to be that carrot and there has to be an incentive. You can also have some regulations, but I think that's the goal. If you can delete 2 regulations and replace it with 1 that makes people want to do things, that's going to get us across the finish line a lot quicker. And it's a lot more manageable for staff to look at one area of town. It almost sounds like form-based code, but I don't think we're ready for that yet.
Yeah.
And we've tried that a couple times, but something to get us a little closer to it, to that goal that you're looking for. So my suggestions would be focus on an area and set clear and reasonable expectations for the ordinance committee and staff.
Okay. I think that, when we talk about village character, I hope that South Gorham Village that we're trying to develop, or whatever, Little Falls Village, and all those areas all kind of look the same. So I'm not really sure. Any other comments? Go ahead, Councilor Gagnon.
I'd just like to make an amendment so that it says creation of new neighborhoods, so that it adds that little bit of clarity. That's my amendment.
Okay, is there a second for the amendment? Councilor Siegel. All right, all those in favor of adding new neighborhoods? 6 yeas. Any more discussion on the item as amended?
No, and I just recommend, or I'd like to say to the people on the ordinance committee that are going to be looking at this, is maybe when we start drawing the map out, look at the village approach neighborhood type things, right? Is where are people approaching from? So if we're talking about Little Falls, people are approaching from Wyndham. If we're talking about here, people are approaching. I don't think it needs to go out everywhere like we've talked about, but maybe just look at that approach. And I'll stop talking now. Thank you.
The town manager, do you want this to say anything about where specifically? Does that make you feel better, or?
Thank you. I think as long as the council is on board with what you're envisioning, and what the ordinance committee knows what you're envisioning, that's the critical component, and we'll work on it. So if it's amended to say new neighborhoods, I take that as new developments. The village center is not a new neighborhood.
Right.
Conceivably, it could comply to new developments within an existing neighborhood.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I guess
Yep.
sorry, to start to clarify here, what about infill?
What?
Like,
What about what? Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, what about infill?
We just said new developments within an existing neighborhood would be considered, right?
I'm sorry, I still don't understand what you're talking
he
about.
said.
Yeah.
What about if, let's say, someone lives on a double lot and then they build one home there? The point is that one should adhere to this greater village character. I just want to clarify, like filling in spots.
Infill.
Infill.
That's the word you used. Thank you. We couldn't hear the word you used. That's, yes.
What is this thing?
All right, so now I'm even more confused because that's not a new neighborhood. That's just like a one house. So, all right. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Well,
Town manager, no?
this is going to go to the ordinance, correct?
Right.
And then it's going to come back to us. So, I mean, I guess as long as ordinance is willing to put the legwork in here, then we can bleed all over it when it comes back. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think the council needs to amend the order, but I would give direction to the ordinance committee on specifically what zones you're looking at. Because new neighborhoods could be all across the board. So if you're looking at anything kind of our zones that are near the urban areas, the village or the rural area, just to kind of define, because they're dramatically different. And Tom's probably gonna have a small stroke over there, but just so that the ordinance committee doesn't work very hard on something to bring back to the council, and that's not what you wanted.
Yeah, that was kind of my concern, that I don't want to waste a giant amount of time on something that we each had a different idea of what this was doing. And I think this has been happening, I'm just going to say it now, a lot lately, that we are giving a lot of vague direction, and we need to be more specific in our items going forward, just because I think that staff, sometimes I see them at meetings having trouble producing the information we want because we all want something different. So I think we need to be really clear on this one going forward. So, go ahead.
So I guess if we're talking about making specific recommendations to what zones we want this in, I would ask to table this until the next meeting, only so that we can get, I don't know what zones to recommend sitting here tonight, basically. That's my problem. I'm not against this item. I'm fine with it, but I can't say I want this in urban residential on this side, on the eastern boundary line tonight. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't. I can't make that recommendation on the fly tonight. So I'd recommend that we table it
I
personally.
would second that recommendation, that motion.
All right, so the motion, and town manager wants to say something? No?
Thank you, and I think with the expectation that we're bringing it back to you for your next meeting. Is that the expectation?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, so the motion and a second. All those in favor of tabling this item to the next meeting? All right, 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-7, action to instruct staff to be prepared to apply for future state bond allocations for trail networks. Councilor Sims sponsored. Proposed Order 2485, ordered that staff are authorized to commit resources to creating a priority list for future state of Maine funding sources for trail improvements, and be it further ordered that staff work to identify projects by priority as well as needed funding to optimize potential for grant resources.
Motion. Motion by Councilor Sims. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Wilder Cross. All right, go ahead.
Well, I'd like to think that with the specificity in this agenda item, I don't even need to say anything. But the state legislature approved sending to the voters a $30 million bond for trails of all kinds, motorized, non-motorized, mixed use. This is a really excellent funding opportunity that we can utilize to improve Gorham's trail networks without burdening our property tax base. So I'd love us to be able to be prepared. And there are, as I mentioned earlier, there's other federal and state funding opportunities that we may also be able to try to start, looping into. So if we have a solid list here, we can start kind of, finding ways to get this stuff funded.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-2-14, action to consider accepting the Finance Committee's recommendation on the disposition of Old Roby School, Finance Committee sponsored. Proposed Order 2486, order that the Town Council accepts the Finance Committee's recommendation that no action be taken on selling and/or leasing the Old Roby School at this time.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Pratt. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilor Wilder Cross. Seeing that
Councilor
Councilor
LaVoy is
isn't
not here, I can cover it, yeah.
Thank you.
So basically, we looked at what Roby School is worth versus what it makes us versus what it costs us, and at this present time, we have decided it is more valuable for the town to keep than to dispose of. So here's where our recommendation came from.
And I am on the Finance Committee, and yes, that's true.
Thank you. Any more discussion on it? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-8, action to consider reviewing fire department fees, Finance Committee sponsored. Proposed Order 2487, order that the Town Council instructs the Finance Committee to review fire department fees and bring recommendations back to the Town Council.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Pratt. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, second by Councilor Wilder Cross. Again,
Yeah, we need to look at the fees again, basically. So we looked at them 2-3 years ago, maybe more. I might be dating myself at this point. Longer than that, actually, because I was chair for 3, so
yeah.
4 or 5 years ago. We just need to review them again because they go up, they don't go down. So, yeah, that's the moral of the story.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-9, action to consider writing off bad debt, Finance Committee sponsored. Proposed Order 2488, order that the Town Council authorizes that $86,608.70 in bad debt be written off as uncollectible. $442.60 from a check in 2017 and $86,166.10 from Fire Department billings from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Wilder Cross. I believe this is pretty self-explanatory, but, so you probably don't have to say anything, but
yeah.
if you want to.
No, I mean, it is what it is. Unfortunately, the amount of bad debt from fire department billings are usually deceased people, unfortunately, who can't, once you're dead, you can't pay your bill, unfortunately. So they get vetted, they go through Thomas Agency after they go through our vetting service. And this is accumulation of bad debt.
So is this 86,000 bad debt, and then there's a check, and then there's another 86? Is that what you're saying? No.
No,
You're saying
that's
total.
total.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Total of 2 amounts, that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just want to
You're
make sure.
good. Yep.
I believe that the town manager mentioned that this was not more than what we've had in the past. In fact, maybe a little less.
Right.
It is definitely less, yes.
Oh, we're actually doing
Excited.
much better,
I was
yes.
excited.
Typically, it's well over $100,000 a year that we write off from 3 or 4 years prior.
Just a clarifying question, is that estimated about how many different billings that like, was that like 12 events or 20 events? Or?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get that information for the council.
I'm just curious.
It would not be uncommon that a medical transport could be anywhere between like $500 and over $1,000, depending on the level of service, the treatment. So it's definitely a variety. of transports and/or patient contacts where they bill for the service.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I remember in the past, it's been like pages.
Yeah.
And then a total, so, yeah. Yeah. Any other discussion? Nope. All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-1-5, action to consider the Finance Committee's recommendation that no action be taken at this time on item 2024-1-5, Finance Committee sponsored. Proposed Order 2489, order that the Town Council accepts the Finance Committee's recommendation that no action be taken at this time on authorizing the expenditure of $55,000 from the contingency account or other account determined by the Town Manager to renovate Roby softball field after getting engineer information.
Is there a motion? Motion by Councilor Siegel. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Councilor Wilder Cross. I don't know, Town Manager, you want to?
Yeah, I'll let the town manager go because I'm not sure if there's not a typo at the end of this, so go ahead. So, go ahead, speak your piece.
Thank you. I was looking for the typo. So I think the general conversation at the Finance Committee and the committee members can correct me if I'm wrong was as the Roby Park design and engineering is moving forward, a lot of that and looking at the field specifically is getting wrapped up into that project and that funding source. So it's not necessarily needed right now. And when a dollar figure is identified through that investigative work, it could either be budgeted for or absorbed into a current account. Am I?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, that's where I was confused because I knew we were doing core samples.
Yep.
And getting an engineering review to give us an actual price. That's why I was confused at the end of that.
They've been surveying the whole site, including the field. So a lot of that work is actually happening right now.
Okay. Yep. Sorry, it was just when it said no action and then for contingency and getting engineering, it confused me. So, okay.
So are we just, are we still setting this money aside, just not using it right now, or are you putting this back into where it came from?
Thank you. The original order was to look for the money. No money was specifically allocated, so I don't think that any action has to be taken on that. But when we come up with some pricing,
Then
whether it's public works work, donations, and/or town work, we'll likely budget the money because I think it's going to align with the budget year pretty well.
Okay. So it's not that you're not doing the projects, it's that you don't need that money.
No, it's just we need to know what we're getting into for the project, basically. Yeah.
Okay. All right. All those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-10, action to consider instructing the Finance Committee to evaluate a plan for donations for Roby Park. Councilor Phillips sponsored. Proposed Order 2490, order that the Town Council instructs the Ordinance Committee to work with staff to determine a process to accept donations for materials, trees, and other associated improvements to Roby Park as the master plan is implemented.
Is there a motion? Councilor Siegel, is there a second? Councilor Gagnon? So yeah, this is basically what it says. It just, I've been approached by several people that are saying they're willing to donate some trees or things like that, and it just made me think that if we open it up, do some sort of program for people, people had mentioned like memorial benches. I know we've talked about that in the past, things like that. But if they align with the master plan and someone wants to donate and make a donation and have it in memory of someone or something like that, I just thought this should say that instructs the Finance Committee, by the way.
Yeah, what?
So.
You didn't mean the ordinance?
No, so
Okay.
that was just everything else goes to
I
ordinance,
asked
nothing ever goes to
why.
finance, so yes. So if we could change it to the Finance Committee, that'd be great. So I just think that it'd be a program to set it up so everybody can kind of uniformly be donating and things like that. So yes, Finance Committee, that's your job now.
I'll make a motion to change that to Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you. Is
And
there
I'll
a
second that.
Okay. All right.
Actually, the version I'm looking at actually says Finance Committee.
The second paragraph.
Yeah, the proposal.
Yeah.
The proposal.
Yeah.
Oh, the order. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
All right, so all those in favor of changing it to the Finance Committee, just for the way it's going to go? All right. So is there any more discussion?
No.
I'm glad to see this rolling along.
I figured while we were implementing, we should get it going, so. All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-11, action to consider authorizing the town manager to sell tax-acquired property at 698 Fort Hill Road to the highest offer, administrator sponsored. Proposed order 2491, order that the town council authorizes the town manager to sell tax-acquired property at 698 Fort Hill Road to Ilona Popov for the sum of $150,000 as outlined in their offer to the town's realtor.
Is there a motion?
Moved.
All right. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Sims. Before we start this, I would like to make an amendment, if I can find it here. There's been some changes since our council agenda was put out, and I would like to amend it to change it to, you got it for me, or hold on a second. $160,000 to, instead of the name that's in there, to Corey Young for the sum of $160,000 as outlined in the offer that we all received in our email to the town realtor. So, is there anyone else who would second my motion to change it? All right, Councilor Gagnon. All right, all those in favor of changing?
Amending.
Yeah, amending the item? All right, 6 yeas. All right. Any discussion on the item as amended? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-12, action to consider selecting a consultant for an economic development strategic plan, administrator sponsored. Proposed order 2492, order that the town council selects Camone Associates to conduct the town's economic development strategic plan.
So moved.
Is there a motion by Councilor Gagnon? Is there a second by Councilor Sims? All right. Does the town manager or economic development director want to come up and talk about this item?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm getting sick of talking. Maybe I'll ask Kevin Jensen to come up and just give a very quick overview of the process, and he or anybody in the committee can answer any questions for you. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening. Just want to give a basic summary. The RFP for this project was sent out at the end of last year with a deadline of the 18th of January. We had our steering committee that was formulated. It's made up of 9 individuals, 2 from the council, 1 from planning board, 2 from GEDC, 1 from GVA, 2 businesses, and a resident. So a 9-person staff, pretty inclusive of the community, which was a big part of putting that steering committee together. They were put together so that they could review all the applications. We received 7. There was a written scoring piece of the applications that we received to bring that down to what we were hoping were maybe 2, 3 finalists. We ended up with 4 that then came as invited for presentations, which were held in early May. We had those presentations. We had a discussion about scoring. The group was then instructed to go back and score for the presentations, brought those numbers back, and then there was further discussion at that point. Some of the other items that happened in that time were to go back and find other examples from the finalists of written reports that they've done for other municipalities, both here in Maine and elsewhere. So brought those back to the group. We had a follow-up conversation. From that, there were 2 finalists where those the committee decided to bring 2 finalists back for follow-up conversations, which happened on the week of May 20th. And following those, we had a vote for the committee of all 9, and the score was 6-3 for Camoin. And so that's where we stand tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions?
Just nice to see so much cooperation, coordination, collaboration. Thank you.
Yeah, I just thank the members of the town that offered to participate in the process. I think it's helpful to get input from the community, particularly the businesses And even though my first choice wasn't the one that was ultimately selected, I respect the group's decision, and obviously Camoin Associates is a very professional, capable organization, and they're augmenting those resources with North Star Planning that have actually done work for the town of Gorham in the recent past as well. So, I have confidence they'll do a good job.
Thank you. Councilor Siegel?
Yes, I guess through you to the Economic Development Director. I'm surprised that there were 3 against. Can you speak to, do you know what their concerns were with this?
It was not 3 against, but there were 2 finalists in the end, so there were 6 for Camoin Associates and 3 for Crane Associates, which was the other finalist. So, and there's also, I just wanted to mention, there's 2 folks from the steering committee here, so if they wanted to give their take, they're here to provide feedback too.
I was one of the people who voted for the other company. And I would just, the Crane Associates, I felt would have provided a different outside perspective, which I think would be helpful because the path we're currently on is unsustainable. So that is why I thought that an outside perspective would be helpful. Nonetheless, it's not to say that I also scored Camoin quite highly. They were like my second best score. So, it's a reasonable, it's a very capable organization.
Thank you very much, Councilor Sims.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilor Gagnon?
I had the best chocolate chip cookie in my life at this committee. I recommend anybody to go to Sullivan House Bakery and get that cookie. It was life-changing. I couldn't believe it.
Some of us didn't eat dinner, so if you could stop talking about cookies right now, that'd be great.
All right. I'd just like to thank, I know there was Todd Chase, Dan Nichols, Tim Haynes, Nancy Ames, David Walsh, Joe Capoza, and David Willis, and obviously Councilor Gagnon and Councilor Sims for being on this committee. I sat in on some of the meetings to see how it was going. There was a lot of good discussion, a lot of good ideas, so it's nice to see that work going forward. My only question is, I know we're going to keep the steering committee. I would just keep in mind, in the essence of we have now 1,000 committees for everybody.
Yeah.
That maybe this somehow, and staff can take care of this, but somehow have the steering committee, when they do check in with the consultant, that maybe they do it at a convenient time when there's already like an economic development committee meeting. Maybe tie those in together just for the essence of, all these meetings and stuff like that. So if that could work out, I would recommend that. That was my only piece, so. All right, all those in favor? 6 yeas.
Item 2024-6-13, action to go into executive session for personnel matters. Proposed Order 2493, order that the Town Council goes into executive session pursuant to MRSA 4056A, personnel matters.
Is there a motion?
Motion.
Yep.
So moved.
Motion by Councilor Siegel, second by Councilor Pratt. All those in favor? 6 yeas. So we will not be coming back and voting on anything after executive session. So thank you.